think it's something that's lost upon us. You know, even small amounts of money add up. You know, especially if you have a decided plan for that. And so what you're doing with the ads don't seem like a lot of money necessarily just at one time.
Right.
But if you actually take it all and do something with it, it could actually go towards one of those incremental goals that you have. And
Right.
I think that's a good point to make as well. To elaborate a bit more, even just from my experience on incremental goal setting, I'll use my current career as a good example. I started there when I was young, so I grew up there. I started when I was 20. I didn't take it seriously when I first started working there because to me it was a job. They paid good money for a 20-year-old single person with no kids. I was kicking it. Eventually, I decided I wanted to take it seriously, but this was after some damage. I did damage to my own reputation within the company and within that building. You know what I mean? And I felt that stigma. Already as a young black man, with this on top of it, it almost seemed impossible to rebound. And I considered leaving the company and go and do other things. But at the end of the day, I also realized that this was a means to an end. And what I mean by that is the money that I make from this job will eventually power one of my long-term goals.
Right.
But to get to that long-term goal, I had to ramp up. So one of my goals, the short-term goal at the job to get to the long-term goal is to make as much money as possible. I think that's the goal of anybody with any profession. You should be getting yours, and you should be taking that and investing back into yourself. In order to do that, I was like, all right, I need to jump a few levels. I was a specialist at the time, and I just started asking. I asked some leaders that I trusted about my perception. I asked them to give it to me raw and tell me exactly what people thought of me. It cut deep. You know what I mean? It was real information. But I knew that.
Like, how did you find the strength to accept that though? Like, how could you go and accept that without taking it personally?
Maturity, man. Maturity and self-reflection. You know what I mean? And I knew the things that I knew my behavior. And sometimes in that building was inappropriate. Yeah. I knew that I had young moments. I knew that I had growing pains in that building, and so, eventually, that resolved, along with my determination that I'm going to get this money. Those both played a part. You know what I mean? So there's that moment of self-reflection, and again, like I was saying earlier, hey, this is not going to beat me. Your perception will change. I will change your mind with my mind. And when nothing else, just my mind and my effort. So some of the things that I worked on, even in the shorter term, to get to the money-making thing was I worked on organization and execution and prioritization. I worked on being present in the moment at all times. I worked on being on time. In fact, early. You know what I mean? I was a person who you could depend on for multiple things and multiple times. And in order to do that, I had to be dedicated to the job more than I'd ever been. And when you dedicate yourself to a role, for a minute you feel like a sucker, man. I'm a working man. But it's like, no, I'm working for me. I work for a company, but this is for my benefit. And as long as I'm here, I'm gonna make them pay me for when I'm working. And in my mind, I'm worth a lot. Yeah. It goes back to the intellectual property, conversation we were having earlier. Within the company, it's a symbiotic relationship, but never take for granted the benefit that you're giving them. Yeah. So as I built that and I changed their perspective with my actions, I started to get opportunities. The first one was a temporary opportunity as an express adjuster. I did that well. I was deployed for some catastrophe work. They just picked me. It was random, and I was the first person to do it, and they trusted me to do it, and I did well. I got a lot of good feedback. They moved me to be a rental adjuster, which I hated. You know what I mean? It was crazy. It was new, and nobody knew what they were doing. And but what it was a blessing in disguise, from the man above. It gave me an opportunity to design a process that still lives in the company today. You know what I mean? Like, at its core, it was inception by me. And my leader he wasn't even receptive of the idea. Another leader had to overhear and be like, why aren't we doing this? You know what I mean? And all of these were just building steps. I was just like, I'm gonna win them over with my brain.
So on another level, as far as energy or spiritually, do you think that dedicating yourself or going those links like made some benefits in another way, like that we can't see?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, like,
most definitely.
You want to elaborate on that first?
Yeah, I want to more so that stands out. Your dedication is kind of like self-discipline for you to teach yourself how to discipline yourself and how to stay focused about certain things and not get deterred away so easily from things. And that's something that I personally have learned over the years.
Right. So what do you think about like the energy and spiritual aspect of that? Is that dedication? Because see, I feel
definitely
like
it plays an important role. Like the better your energy, the better your outcome, I'd say, because I say even if it's a bad outcome, a positive person is always going to find a positive in the negative. So definitely. Yeah, definitely.
I can't agree more. And I also think it's about what you put out.
Yeah.
I take Joe for instance. You know what I mean? I use him behind the camera, but Joe is always positive. I never have gotten a negative vibe from Joe. I'm sure Joe has bad days. I'm sure Joe, is not always in good spirits, but when I see Joe, his energy is always amazing. You know what I mean? And I feel like he's gonna be all right because of that. You know what I mean? And so it also brings me here, into this conversation today. So I definitely feel like it has an impact, a huge impact. I would say for me, I was always focused on helping people try to attain their goals as well. You know what I mean? So people would ask me, what are you doing? I'm like, oh, this is exactly what I did. Where some people may hoard that information.
That's crazy, man.
Some people may
like
that. Some people may hoard it. And that's a problem amongst us as a group of people.
Oh yes, definitely.
We will hoard information to our own detriment.
Because you don't want to see somebody do better than you.
Exactly.
That's not even. Sometimes that's not even factual. It's just fear. It's like an emotion.
Most times it's fear, and
yeah.
it's fear-based, and they play on our emotions as such. You know what I mean? I'm a big believer, and this conversation taking a turn. You know what I mean? I'm sorry, but I'm a big believer that in terms of that, our mentality, that's not by happenstance. That's by design.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it's systemic at this particular point where they pitted us against each other so that we cannot grow together. It goes back to what I was saying before. We started the conversation and the cameras was rolling. We don't value each other enough. We don't value each other's intellectual property enough. We don't value the impact that we could have as a collective enough. We think that we can't have an impact when we really would have a really, really big impact. They know this, so they keep us scattered. They keep us separated. You know what I mean? And until we actually can rebound from that systemic thing that they put within us, that we fear each other, we feel what the next person may take from us because we don't understand that it's enough for us all if we collectively go after it. But individually, we can never get enough for us all. Individually, you can get enough for yourself, maybe your family, but you can't get enough for the community.
Right.
That's a community effort. You know what I mean? It's what it is. Yeah. And so, I just think that you hit something right there with the, we are afraid of each other. We're afraid to see each other grow. And I think that the more, to his point, you put out that positive energy amongst each other so that we all understand that we're in this together. We all understand that we can achieve things together. There is enough for us all. But the only way that there is enough for us all is if we go out there and get it together. Because that's why they have enough for themselves. They went out and they got it together. They didn't go out individually and steal this country. They got together and stole this country. You know what I'm saying?
Let's get it.
I'm just saying, if we be real about it, that was a thing that happened collectively. They showed up and they organized and they said, hey, we finna do this. They were shady about it, you know what I mean? Yeah. And whatever we do, we don't have to be shady about it because I want our energy to remain positive as a people. I believe that's a benefit of ours. And again, I think that's something that they try to undermine. Our positive vibes that we put out into this universe, we are operating at a different frequency in my mind. You know what I mean? I think that they're fearful of that. And the more we come together collectively and do things like this, whether it's just conversations where we share the like-mindedness of us all, even though we still have differences. But those qualities that we have and commonalities, we need to focus on those, as a people, and I think that it takes goal setting, back to the original conversation, to get.
I like that. Hey, this is straightflow.com, Chocolate Talk. We bring you real life, real perspective. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and hit that notification bell.